All right. Welcome back to I'll Have What She's Having. Today we have Graham, my ex-partner and current lover and friend. And we're going to talk to you guys about how we went from being, you know, diehard, this is my person, we are partners till the end, gonna get married, have kids, live together, all that shebang, to where we are now, which neither of us thought this would have been possible about 6 months ago when we broke up, that we could actually not just remain in relationship, but change everything to be like and actually a good relationship. And it's so we're here to talk to you about that journey. And for those of you who have been keeping up for a little while, Graham's the one who came to South America with me, and anytime I've referenced my partner in the past 2 years, it's been Graham up until we had our parting of the ways last Halloween. So welcome, Graham. It's good to have you on the podcast.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, so we're I've been getting a lot of questions. There's been a lot of like, I'd love to talk to you about how that happened, how we took a very in-depth partnership and transformed it. Because I think there's a lot of people who want to be able to do that, who want to be able to take a really special relationship where you've built so much together and take it to the next place. Because the next place might not be an escalation. The next place might be a de-escalation, but it's actually better for both people. And so not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, not saying, okay, we can't have anything if we can't have this. Like, what if we could transform it into something new? And so we're not saying we have any answers, but we are saying this is what we did. And these are the considerations we had. And this is the situation that we had. It might not work for you. You'll probably have to do something completely different, but hey, it is possible. And here's an example.
I have all the answers.
Oh, yes, of
Yeah.
course.
I just couldn't let that one pass. Yes, and I think that speaks to, like, not that I have the answers, but that we build so much memory and so much identity in with another person when we're in relationship with them. And I have been in a lot of relationships that I just no longer have contact with those romantic partners because of the way that the relationship ended and my capacity and desire to um, stay in relationship with that person. And I think in a lot of those instances, I didn't have a model for continuing a relationship with a romantic partner after I'd ended it. People always had like, oh, I still am friends with my ex, and I didn't know how that happened. I didn't know what it meant to go through the process of going from I don't want to be with you anymore, and decouple that, or like also decouple that from like I don't want to see you anymore, right? Because that's another big piece of it is I don't want to be away from this, um, which is not necessarily saying the same as saying I want to be away from you as a person.
Yeah, and I think one of the troubles, and it really depends on how the relationship starts, because if the relationship starts and it's grounded in sex, for example, sometimes it's really difficult to move completely away from sex.
Which is what ours was. Let's
Yeah, we did start with sex, to be fair, but we started with a lot of attraction that was bigger than sex.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't just like, oh, having sex with you is fun and like we're just going to be bang buddies for a while, which can sometimes be really difficult. If there's a friendship at the base of it and then there's the other elements added on top, I think there's more chance of continuing. But yeah, with us, like, again, I think because sex was rooted in our, like, one of our favorite activities was sex, like we decided to keep that as an element of our relationship. I mean, also possible because we have a polyamorous framework and we always have. So, for a good example, my current partner just set up the whole tech to help us film this. And that is a wonderfully fun turn of events where, there's a lot of, there's a lot of change, but it all feels like the right direction. It all feels right to everybody involved because it's just like, well, this actually does suit everybody involved better.
Yeah, we figured out, I think one of the things we talk about when we come back to this, and we'll keep circling around this, is what is the right dose of each other for each other.
Yeah.
And we were trying to spend, well, no, it wasn't that. What was the fundamental misalignment that we had? I think that's the question I think we want to start with.
Yeah, what happened? Right? And especially I think we shocked a lot of people when we broke up because, especially when it's like, "Hey, we just bought a house together." And then like a couple months later like, "Hey, we just broke up." Um yeah, the fundamental misalignment was where we want to live, but also how we want to live and the speed that we live at. And so like and we'll go over what happened for me, what happened for you. There's obviously like some differences, some similarities between those two things. But yeah, for me, there was like, it wasn't just, oh, we want to live in two different places, right? You want to live in a smaller town. I want to live in the city. Even though they're an hour away, we did think, oh, we could, combine our lifestyles and live half in one and half in the other. And ultimately, we realized that that is just more stressful and we don't get any of the benefits of living in either place. And like, it quickly became very apparent that it wasn't sustainable. But the real difference between those two is a clash in values, right? Of like the clash of like, we don't just live in these places because we feel like it. We live in these places because it's a fundamental part of who we are. And realizing that
Yeah, the
was huge.
things, the activities that we can do in these places are different, and we're living in those places because we want to do those different activities.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think more so though like the feeling of being in those places, right? Like I like being in the city because I love being surrounded by people. I love knowing that there's so many people around me. And I know that you
That is
don't.
exactly the reason why I hate being in the city, is because I just feel compressed by all the presence of all the people. And similarly, I love being in Squamish because it feels spacious. It feels like there's room for me to breathe. It feels like the sky is more open.
And when I'm in Squamish, I feel like there's not enough stuff around me and I feel lost and I feel like there isn't enough life and vibrancy around me. Yeah, right? And like we both kind of knew that, we felt that from the very beginning, but we didn't address it because there was so much love and lust and just desire there. So that was definitely one of them. The other one is like, and again, we named these almost immediately, but then we just like stuck with them and we're like, no, 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 it'll work itself out. And one of the other one was, and again, it kind of goes in the same pattern, but like I like right away, I was like, oh, I like that you slow me down,
Hmm.
and you were like, oh, I like that you speed me up. And it's really been like 2 years of I have this like mental image of like me walking down the sidewalk and like pulling you along faster than you want to walk. It's like when two people walk different speeds. Like you can't walk you can't walk the wrong speed without being tired if it's too fast or if it's too slow, right? Like something about it is exhausting. It's mentally exhausting, physically exhausting. And yeah, that's part of what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think because of that, because there was a lot of emotional attachment, and because we both wanted this to work, we wanted, the love to be enough. Um, but we also, had our stubbornness of like, I don't, I don't really want to change. I don't necessarily want to adapt to um, this bigger difference. This, I would call it an irreconcilable difference. But we fell into the trap, and we're both smarter than this, but we're not smarter than this. We fell into the trap of dating the idea of each other. So I fell into the trap of like, one day Kris will fall in love with Squamish and she'll move here and she'll love it. She'll see how amazing it is. And I think you were doing the same, being like, Graham will spend more time in Vancouver and he'll fall in love with it and you'll see how amazing it is.
To my credit, you did say before we went to South America, you were like, okay, I'm going to move to Vancouver.
I did say that. And I did say I would make the effort to learn Vancouver, learn the city, and open my heart to it. And I tried. I'll give myself that I tried.
Yeah, I mean, I knew right away that Squamish felt wrong for me. And at least right now, it felt wrong for me. And I still, agreed to move there half the time because I love you and I wanted it to work. And I was so convinced that this was the right thing for both of us and that this was the direction life was going in. And maybe, this relationship just takes compromise and like all relationships take compromise. And yeah, it like I was crying on the way to getting the keys for our apartment in Squamish. Right? Like I was crying. Something deep inside me was breaking because I knew that it was wrong and I knew that it meant we couldn't live this life that we thought of together and not in that way. And so yeah, like both of us knew, right? And like, but we were willing to give it that shot. We were willing to say like, yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do this for you. But ultimately, like you can't, we cannot change those pieces of ourselves. And just like you said, we're both stubborn AF. So we were both like, nope, not doing that. Actually, can't change that. Can't change that piece. It's too fundamental.
And I was going to say, like, the kicker is, well, not okay. I'll say this part after the kicker, before whatever. Um, the other piece was that community is a really important value for both of us, and I noticed that when I was splitting my time between Squamish and Vancouver, I wasn't nourishing my community connections to Squamish, and when I was in Vancouver, I wasn't enjoying the community connections as deeply as they could be. And by splitting the time between the two places, it meant I was never fully in either place. You were never fully in Squamish. You've got a lot more time invested in Vancouver than I do in Squamish, so you already have a lot of those community connections, and you I think bond with people a lot quicker than I do. But the kicker to that is that I already have the example from my parents who have been moving back and forth. They only recently moved back to Prince George full time, but they've been moving back and forth between Prince George and Vancouver from 2010 till about 2023.
Mm.
And basically once a month, every 2 months maybe, and seeing how draining it was on them, and then being like, no, it's only an hour. It can't be that much energy investment, but it's an hour drive, but it's the 2 hours of getting ready to come down. It's the 2.5, 3 hours of settling in. It's the adjustment to being in the other place. So like that, even that relatively short distance is still more of an energy investment and an energy drain than it really was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The massive realization that oh, this takes so much more time than that hour drive. This takes the groceries, the cleaning out the fridge, the cleaning the house, the like cleaning of two houses, the, splitting up the stuff, the mental energy it takes to think, what do I need in this other place this week? Yeah, and like I have so much like internalized trauma around having two different houses from my parents divorcing when I was 10 and like switching back and forth for 8 years and like it I had the best situation you could possibly imagine and it was exhausting mentally to have to think about like okay but that stuff's there and that stuff's there and not having just like one home base where everything exists for you. And you're right, like with the community, I think what I noticed immediately upon being like okay, I'm going to try living in Squamish, I'm going to be there, was the fact that I realized, oh, like I actually have to build a whole new community. Even though it feels like it's one community, there's a lot of overlap. But when you actually are there day after day, like on a weeknight, it's like, well, who do I see? Who do I call? Who do I go for coffee with? Like, oh, I have to create an entire new community for myself. And that idea was exhausting because, yeah, I just realized I wanted to deepen with the people I already knew in Vancouver. And I was just, yeah, splitting my time, splitting myself in a way that wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to either of us. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what happened.
And the reason I mean, I was the one to bring up the conversation and say, I cannot do this anymore. I do not want to continue this dynamic.
That's a fun way of saying I'm the one who broke us up.
Yeah, all right, potato, tomato. I'll give you that one. And because I'd been married before. Like I'd been in, you know, in a 6.5 year relationship, 4.5 years of that had been married. And one of my patterns in relationship has been sticking it out too long and saying, no, I can make this work. If I just give more, it will start to work better. And that really ends up just draining me and making me resentful. And the pattern has been going past the point where there was any like love or goodwill left, and it just turned into resentment and saying like, I really just need to be away from this. And so that was the reason I broke it off when I did, was because I looked at that and I looked at all these factors and I said, oh, this isn't going to change because it's not a changeable thing. And the only thing that will change is us liking each other less if we continue to push this. And so it was a hard conversation to initiate. And I wish I could have done it from a cooler place. Uh, but, but it was coming from a somewhat heated, somewhat emotional place. I gave myself some time to cool down about it, but I wish it had been coming from a cooler place. But that said, I think one of the keys to us actually starting into the decoupling process was sitting there with you after that conversation, or after I said those words, and at that point I really wanted to run away. I wanted to just be like, yep, pull shoot, bail out the door and go back to Squamish, because I didn't want to be with the emotions of that. But then just making myself do that and coming back to, with both of us coming back to the agreements that we'd made to each other when we were in relationship and throughout our relationship check-ins, to do a decoupling process if we ever broke up, and to not just bail on each other. And so that, I think, hour and a half, 2 hour conversation that we had after the same, in the moment when we should drop these couches off.
Yeah, we are sitting on the
breakup
couches right now that Graham dropped off and then immediately sat down and said, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore.
So yeah, then having that, it's just fun context. Having that conversation and sticking with it, it was really important for me to affirm that we are going to go through this decoupling process and I'm here for it. And it was a reminder to myself that yes, I can hold these emotions. And that was when we worked out, basically settled some of the emotions and then worked out the logistics. So like, what are we going to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting being able to talk about, well, all of it's interesting. All of it's interesting to be able to move through it with such grace and such calmness. And that, like, yeah, that was a very, very painful moment for me. And I'm sure it was very painful for you. Like, I mean, talking to some people who are doing the breaking up right now, and, even when you are the one who is doing the breaking up, it is still difficult, right? Like, we are not, like, I would never say that, it's only hard for the person who is broken up with. It is slightly harder because you aren't the one in control of it. But it's also slightly easier because when something's happening to you like that, you didn't have to step up and say the words and actually move through the process of saying, oh my gosh, I love this person and I can't be with them. Not like this. Of course, there's every possible dynamic why that's happening and how that's happening, but it's hard on both sides. But yeah, in that conversation, the initial breakup conversation, yeah, I mean, it was really, really hard. And yes, it was very reassuring to hear like that you were still going to stick to a decoupling process, which basically looked like us seeing each other regularly, but so much less frequently because we were spending so much time together at that point, that, part of decoupling and part of just changing the relationship is changing the frequency you see each other. And that helps immediately tell your brain to be less attached to this person. Although I do remember in that conversation, I mentioned something about like being attached to you and like because at that point, like we were so intertwined in what we were doing that, yeah, that attachment was so, so, so strong. And you were like, no, I'm no longer attached to you. And I was like, Graham, come on, it's been 2 days. But you know what? If that's your truth, that's your truth. But um, yeah, to like de-escalate by still seeing each other so that our nervous system could like slowly de-escalate, and keeping it consistent, keeping it so that we know when the next time is coming. um, but while, yeah, like definitely doing it every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, sometimes every four. And oh my gosh, number one recommendation is don't do it in a house. Like go for a walk, be moving, be outside, be in nature, and have those hard conversations. Even though somebody's gonna see you crying as you walk past them on the trail, like if you can get out into nature and be moving while you have these hard relationship conversations, it just moves the energy, it moves through you so much easier. um yeah, sitting on a couch inside a house is the hardest way to do it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Moving was, I think, a big part, and we both naturally knew that. Or not naturally, but we learned that from experience. Was like when we get stuck on the couch, we can spiral. And so going for walks, and yeah, what it ended up looking like, the decoupling process was very much a private process. It was just the two of us, um, talking to each other. We never had any kind of ceremony where we stood up in front of people. I know other people that have done that,
Mm.
and done some sort of a decoupling ceremony. I would not have been on board for that. I
No.
would have been a hard no for that. It would have been no, so far out of my comfort level. So it ended up looking like we just went for, a 2 hour, 3 hour walk, and talked about all that stuff. And in between, I was doing my journaling and thinking about what are the things that I need to clear? What are the really sticky bits that I need to, or that I want, not need to, but that I want to share, that I want to be seen? And uh, are there any asks that come out of that? And really, it was just, I want to be seen in this. And then the rest of that process was my internal work of sitting down and forgiving you
Mm.
and just letting go and just being like, that thing that is sitting badly with me, just let it go.
Yeah.
I don't need to talk about it. I don't need to share it. I don't need closure on it. The closure I need comes from me
Mm.
in most of those. I'm maybe an internal processor, but I think
You
that's
are.
okay. But fundamentally, I think that we I'm going to generalize about human nature here. The closure, the most powerful form of closure, does come from inside ourselves.
Oh,
I
totally.
I cannot make you forgive me for anything. I cannot, say the words that will blossom the flower of forgiveness in you. I can give you something, but you have to do the rest of the work yourself.
Yeah. I mean, we did actually, earlier on in our relationship, we did have the opportunity to go through a very deep rupture and repair cycle. So, like, there was an agreement between us that was broken, and that, like, but then, of course, we're faced with this, you know, question that none of us really were taught how to answer, which is how do you actually do the repair work? How do you actually move from, like, I'm hurt and I can't trust you in the same way, to I forgive you and I can trust you again fully and deeply. And ultimately, if you do go through that properly, you end up with more trust than you had in the first place because you've seen, yourself and this person move through that cycle of repair. And so I think that even helped inform it in the end of like, okay, and we can move through this. And again, that's one of the reasons why it was like, well, I don't want to discard everything we've done together, everything we've worked through, because like we do know we can trust each other. We do know we can have these hard conversations. We do know that there's so many aspects of our lives together that we want to keep. And also, yeah, that dosage, right? Like what is the right amount of each other in our lives? Um, and what aspects do we want, right? Like once we moved past the decoupling and like breakup conversations, we moved into like, well, what do we want to keep? What things do we want to do together? Like, we kind of always had this idea. Like, there was maybe like the first two conversations where we were like, okay, we're just breaking up. We're not talking about the future. And then it slowly transitioned into like, well, what do we want moving forward? Do we want something? And it pretty quickly came out that like we did think that we could transform it. We did think that we could move into a different form of relating. But in terms of like just to like cap off the like let's say there was like a 6 month journey between, well, there is between then and now. Like there was probably the first 3 months of like breakup, and then it kind of like the energy shifted in one moment where like the next time we saw each other, it was all of a sudden like, okay, there isn't continuous tears. There isn't like hard conversations. There's, okay, I'm excited to see you and let's chat and let's catch up and let's spend time together. And there might be conversations about the past that need to be cleared. There might be stuff that needs to be aired out. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The forgiveness piece has to come from yourself. Like there was pieces that I, needed to forgive you for as well. And I think it took me longer and it was a little bit harder, and I think I did ask for you to help me a little bit. There was things that I asked for from you to help me with that forgiveness, but I do recognize that that is my responsibility. Yeah. So yeah, anything else to say on the breakup piece, and then we can kind of move to like the transformation.
Give me a second to think with that. Sit with that. I think another really important piece in the breakup that made the decoupling successful, actually not so much in the breakup, but in the relationship, was there wasn't any major bad behavior that we hadn't already addressed.
Mm-hmm.
There were no patterns of one of us manipulating the other. There were no patterns of us breaking up and coming back together. We were, I think, thoroughly respectful and loving towards each other through our entire relationship. And we were working from a very solid foundation. So if I'm going to generalize again, I would say maybe if the foundation is not solid, right, if the fundamentals of the relationship are not solid, like if there is problematic behavior, it's okay to not want to decouple with that person or not want to go through a relationship transformation process. Or you can say, I don't want to stay in relationship the same way. You don't have to go through a decoupling or relationship transformation where you still allow a person to be a part of your life or a loving partner to you. It's okay to not want that.
Mm-hmm.
And if the person still wants to go through a decoupling process, you can give them that. And also, it's okay to say, I have given you all that I can in a decoupling process, and I'm not going to give you any more. And the rest of your work is your own work,
Mm-hmm.
right? There is a finitude to the decoupling process.
Finitude. That's a good word.
It's a great word.
Is that a real word?
It is a real word.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope. Please
Doesn't
don't
matter.
check this. Please don't
Doesn't
check
matter.
this.
It's fine. I mean, any
I'm
word.
a modern day Shakespeare, y'all.
Making up words as long as we understand what it means. It's a word.
It's a word.
Yeah.
Where was my thought? My train is, oh, there it is. Choo choo, motherfucker.
Both of our brains are a little bit scrambled today.
Okay, bad behavior, relationship fundamentals are solid. Yeah. The don't let someone drag you into a decoupling process that is just an extension of relationship.
Ooh, yeah, good point.
Not that I've been there, but I've heard of that.
Mm-hmm. Because some people don't want to leave the relationship, right? And so, well, of course, and so like they see that as an excuse to like still spend time with you, right? And still like have some form of relationship.
But it's also, being in the decoupling process is also a great opportunity to say, I don't give a fuck about this. Like, I'm not taking
Mm,
this on, because there were some things, and you say it in whatever loving, gentle way that works for you. But um, it's a great opportunity to practice saying, I don't want to hold this for you.
yeah. And I think that was a powerful thing that you did like to me, for me. Like there were things that you just kind of looked at me and said, "No, I'm not holding this anymore." And there's elements, and it's interesting because we've talked so much about partnership. We have, like, some of you have heard or seen some of like like our coupling. We had like a massive coupling process where we spent like a whole weekend and like talked about every single angle of relationship that we possibly could.
Relationship nerds. Yep.
We are relationship nerds. And then we went on, like, we did major relationship check-ins every single season, so every like 3 or 4 months, and we only skipped maybe one or two. And like we had, like, it took between like 12 hours and sometimes like 24. Like we took days sometimes. It's actually kind of insane when I look back on it. And I'm completely singing a different tune when it comes to, like, yes, absolutely have that conversation, but like the next relationship, my current relationship, we did it in like a couple hours instead of a whole weekend. And then like our check-ins are much smaller, much more impromptu versus like having big, like, okay, what's our goal for the next season? What do we want to do? What worked last season? What didn't? Like you can have that same conversation much more condensed and like do the journaling, but then like give each other the highlights instead of like really talk through it, which I really appreciated doing. And I really loved that we got the chance to do that. And I love that now I'm like, okay, great. I don't really want to do it in that much depth. But that process, I don't know. I forget what the point was here. There was a point, wasn't there? Maybe you know it.
That we were relationship nerds, that we affirmed the process. We knew each other because we'd done all that work. We'd seen each other change. We'd kept up with each other changing through the relationship. I don't know what your point was. There was something we started with boundaries, me saying, I don't want to hold this for you anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and just the fact that like the partnership and like calling somebody your partner, like what does that mean to you? It means a lot of different stuff to a lot of different people. There's also like the idea of sexual partner where like, yes, okay, I have sex with this person versus like an actual partnership where the person is entwined in your life and you are doing life things together, and planning life and everything else. And so, yeah. And so it's interesting to like come to where we've landed right now, which is obviously an ever evolving situation and everything else where we are lovers and friends, and so the iteration one of this podcast episode we did when we were in Mexico with his family, which was a trip that I was on the year before, as part of our 6 month in South America and Mexico trip. And yeah, I was graciously invited to come again, and because we had gotten to a place where we could go, yeah, that actually might be really fun. And like, what do we want to do during this trip? Oh, we want to have lots of sex. Okay. Yeah, let's do that. Let's see how that goes. And turned out that it worked great for us. But that I know is very, very rare.
Yeah.
And in that there is the conversation of like, does this mean that we are a different form of partners? Do we want to take that word and change its meaning for us in this dynamic? And like right now, no. But in the future, maybe it has a different, like, partner could also just be somebody consistent in your life that you have like these established roles and, I don't know, rhythms with.
Yeah, and I think that brings us around to the next phase that you wanted to talk about, which is where are we now in relationship and how is the thinking, each of our thinkings around relationship and the labels that we put on it changed. Do you want to go first or should I take that first?
You go ahead. I think I just started it.
You did start it, and you touched on that lovers and friends piece, and that has been one of the things, one of the light bulbs that has come on for me in this uh, process is not giving you the label of my partner,
Mm.
right? But instead thinking about you play these roles of a friend and a lover, and you used to play the role of a partner, right? So the partner role is now in the past. We did have a brief phase where we were like, we could do like business stuff. We could do a collaboration together. That didn't last long. So
No,
we
that was a bad
pretty
idea.
rapidly figured out like um, business collaborator doesn't work. But we also have a very, I think, intellectual bent to our relationship where we'll get really nerdy about communication or sex or process work or making space for groups and the respective work that we're doing. Me with men and men's work, and you with women and men and sexual liberation and pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. We've always been able to be like, hey, so I'm thinking about this thing. Like, let's talk about it. Um, but yes, go on.
And so yeah, there has been a feeling of being a little bit more free when I think about, okay, you are playing these roles and the roles are okay to shift over time. It feels more okay that those roles change and shift over time. And that one label like partner is not trying to encapsulate all of the roles that you're playing, but to actually get more descriptive about it.
Yeah, we also, and me, I definitely put a lot of pressure on the word partner, I think. And I
Ooh,
think
yeah.
you felt that. And I apologize for that. I really do. And the like I can see, and I think a lot of people resonate with this, the idea that, like, the second we decided to not be married, the second we decided to not be partners, everything got so much easier because there isn't that pressure. Like, there's people who decide not to get married ever but decide to have like a lifelong partnership because it actually works better to not have that sort of pressure. Like, the second you change that label, like, even though it doesn't feel like it should have a significant thing to your life, like it's just a label, it does. And all of a sudden there's this pressure. And so, like, even if we started behaving in a more partnership based way, like, we are connected, we do talk in ways that are just so familiar, we know each other so deeply,
We just vibe.
we vibe, yeah. But at the same time, like, calling it partner, if it's detrimental to the actual real relationship that we have, then we're not going to use it. It's that simple, right? Like, we don't have to conform to anything, any rules that people have. We have our agreements. We understand who we are to each other. We don't hurt anybody else with the way that we're relating, right? Like, everything we do is completely known and understood and given consent by my partner, for example, that, like, no, we don't. Like, there's there's nothing else that you need to do. You don't have to conform to whatever somebody else says a relationship needs to be. And that's what I love about what we're doing.
And even using the label friend and lover, using the roles friend and lover, and eschewing the label or the role of partner just gets my like anxious attachment style. It just be like, but that means I'm pushing you away. And part of my work has been to be like, no, that's okay, right? Pushing you away is part of getting the dose right.
Pushing me away allows you to love yourself more,
Yeah.
because one of the things that you finally told me in the end was that you were overstepping your own boundaries to try to be the, savior, and
Yeah.
to come be too much for the relationship and to give yourself so much to the relationship and to avoid doing your own work.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And I say that with love. And I also say that with a lot of, like, that really hit home for me. And I went, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And so I am more than happy for you to, like, the way you show up now is so different than the way you showed up in the last few months of our partnership. Like, you were a shell of yourself.
Yeah, I was a stressed out monkey.
You were so stressed out. You were, like, your mental health was very shaky, and it was putting a lot of stress and pressure on me as well. And, like, because, yes, okay, we can talk very orderly about the things that, like, overall, those are the anchor pieces that don't work between us. But on a very, like, real present moment thing, when we broke up, things were not going good.
Oh yeah, I think you earlier in this episode you used the word graceful to describe some part of the process, and most of the process was not graceful.
That's fair. Looking back, it feels more graceful than others that I've
Yeah.
witnessed.
Yeah.
But in general, like, yeah, well, we managed to flow through it quite there was peacefulness to it. I cried a lot, I showed up in absolute states of mess, and, like, I think one of the days where we did our, like, decoupling walk, I think we walked around Stanley Park for, I don't know, 6 hours that day. I cried the whole time, and I called it to my friends one of the hardest days of my life. Like, it was not easy, but talking through it all allowed us to move to the next step. And, this timeline is honestly so quick. I think that's the other shock is, like, there's such an accelerated timeline in what we've been able to accomplish together. Um, but yes, there was so much stress in those last few months. And right, so the point I was trying to make was that the second the partnership label was removed, the second you were able to reclaim your own energy and to inject your own energy back into yourself, you started showing up in the way, that I wish you had when we were together. And so it is very easy to start to resent that and to look at you and go, well, why couldn't you be that when we were together? But I know exactly why you couldn't. And I know that the fact that we were together made it so you couldn't and made it so that you were giving too much to me. And one of the most important concepts I learned from a book that I, of course, swiftly forgot and didn't apply to our relationship as I was being swept away and was telling myself that this was the be all and all relationship of my life was the fact that, a relationship involves three parts. It's you and it's me and it's the relationship itself. And the health of you and me is so much more important than the relationship, right? Like, we can break the relationship in half. We can shatter it to pieces. We can build it back again, but we can't shatter ourselves, I mean, we could, but it's not great.
We continually do.
We continually do. That is correct. But let's try not to shatter ourselves. Yeah, it's, we weren't taking care of ourselves. We were trying to put all that energy into the relationship and save the relationship that was drowning. And we weren't grabbing our own life vests.
I think that section feels complete.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add to that.
Yeah, no, it feels good. Yeah, what happened, where we were, where we're going. I guess where we're going is the next piece. Where do we want to go? Yeah,
Yes. There, where do we want to go?
where do we want to go? I mean, it depends on how personal you want to get and the ideas that we might have for the future. We don't have to share everything. Some things
Maybe
can
not.
remain
Yeah.
private,
Yeah, you know what? You know what? You know the old saying, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not gonna let's not.
yeah.
Let's not.
I mean, we have ideas.
Let's touch on instead uh relationship check-ins then versus now.
Yeah, I mean,
So
we told you a little bit about the relationship
what has
check-ins.
changed for you in how you want to do relationship check-ins with your new partner?
Oh, so much shorter. So much shorter. Just take out all the okay. I, I've probably shared it with some of you, but for those of you who haven't, and if you want the document, I'm happy to send it to you. Please do ask, because you can just take it and remove so many pieces of it. But there's still good nuggets in there. It was so big. It was so comprehensive. It took us both hours of work just to write down our answers, and then we'd come together and talk about it all. And honestly, it's I like splitting stuff up into past, present, future, right? So what do we want to celebrate from the last season? What did we do well? And what's the thing that we need to clear that okay, that didn't go well, but let's name it, put it in the back. And then what's our goal for the next season? What do we want to accomplish together? What do we want to do together? What do we want to focus on? And is there anything big that hasn't been said that needs to be said? Right? What are you not telling me? What do you want to be able to tell me, but you need to know that there's extra compassion to be able to say it? Say the hard things. That's one of the prompts we had was make space to say the hard things. And I think that's it, right? I think other things can just come up naturally. And I would shorten that to even we don't even need to think about it beforehand, or maybe just brainstorm, but then just come together. And yeah, realistically, in my new relationship, first our first conversation, it is still important to say what do you want most out of life? What are you looking for in life? Where do you see this partnership going? What elements could this partnership include? Um, and that I really love as like a way to step very consciously into it, to not just throw around the word partner casually, as much as that's one of my lessons, is to not be so intense about it. Um, yeah, I think that's what I would change. What about you?
I think I think move a lot of what we were doing in the relationship check-in, especially clearings, celebrations, gratitude stuff. I would do the work to make that a more regular, probably weekly thing so the conversations can be smaller
Mm-hmm.
and just make time for that to happen regularly, right? And be addressed while it is staying small, and to ask, what do you need in this moment, right? And what do I need in this moment? And remember to remind myself to ask for what I need. And then I think I would dial the relationship, and this is me, and you can disagree. I would dial the relationship check-in, like the quarterly check-in, all the way down to, and maybe I would even make it a 2-month thing instead of a 3-month, but whatever. But dial it all the way down to, what do we want to get better at in the next 3 months, or what do we want to emphasize in the next 3 months? Right. I
Mm-hmm.
think that would be the fundamental thing. I would keep it very forward and growth oriented. And but that's also because I've done a lot of my learning about myself, and I've done a lot of learning about relationships. So I've a lot of the skills cross pollinate. And I think that's one thing that you sent me one time, was this voice note on relationship skills. The growth that you get in relationship A translates to relationship B. You're
Mm-hmm.
not starting from zero every time you get into a new relationship. So, I can feel confident that I could dial it back to that smaller conversation
Mm-hmm.
with that knowledge, but I would make it very small and very, very goal and growth oriented. What do we want to get better at this year? Is it, or this season? Is it do we want to get better at doing less? Do we want to get better at ballroom dancing? Do we want to get better at getting outdoors? Do we want to get better at just being cozy?
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
do we want to emphasize? Because you could use other wording, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More like it. It's nice and simple.
Mhm.
Um,
And what do we, I think? Yeah, yes. Sorry, the wording. What do we want to get better at together?
mm-hmm.
Right. That's because a relationship is fundamentally consists only of the time you spent together.
Mm.
Right.
And the
You
and the
don't.
time you're communicating.
Okay, I'll give you that one. But it fundamentally, the core of it, the real juice of a relationship, is the time that you spend together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that also shows our values, though, right? That like both of us value time spent.
Mhm.
And to some people, like I know I've heard of people who are in relationships where, they spend not that much time together. And they actually love the fact that they live on like separate ends of the continent for most of the time and they see each other sometimes, but they send gifts and they, support each other in different ways. Like there's so many different forms of relationship. But yes, you're right, for us and for many people I know, time spent is so important. And that is like, it's to the point where sometimes it's hard to maintain relationships where people are so far away because like a phone conversation is great, but like being in person, there's nothing that compares to that. Like yeah, I mean, the latest episode I just did on AI is that kind of thing where it's like you can't fake the feeling of actually being in person with somebody, looking into their eyes, like feeling your heart rates sync, touching. Yeah.
And I think I'm going to bring us all the way back into the decoupling part of the conversation. One thing that we did, actually, one thing that we didn't do that made decoupling work was we didn't try to do it over text or phone calls or video chats. We did it in person. The texting, the phone calls were purely admin work.
Yeah.
We were not fighting over text.
Yeah.
We
There
were not
was,
trying to
yeah.
express emotions over text. We were not saying, I need this over text. We were both holding our powder, keeping our powder dry until we got there in person and we could attune to the other person and share a state and have some back and forth. And I have heard about this kind of thing going off the rails, or not this kind, and by this kind of thing, I mean conversations where someone is trying to express a feeling or communicate a need or ask for something over text. And it it's got so much potential to go badly.
Oh my God, so much. Like,
Yes.
right, because you're not communicating fully. You're communicating just with words. The other 90% of your communication is through everything else. And so, yeah, no, I agree. That is a really good point. We never, ever, ever, and we both knew that we wouldn't do that. We both knew we wouldn't send each other long voice notes or like texts even that say anything about the relationship. It would just be, when are we meeting up? Like this thing, unless something was really, really urgent. Even like I set a boundary at one point, or I made a request of you so that, if we could give each other the respect of saying, okay, if I'm an event in Squamish, I'm going to tell you I'm going. And same thing with if you're an event in Vancouver, you're going to tell me that you're going so that we can then make that choice. Like, it's not even, hey, don't go to events. It's, no, like, we have shared community. Like, if you're going to go, please tell me so that I can make the choice whether or not to show up. And then the second piece of that request was, hey, can you not bring a date or a partner for this first 6 months? And of course, that then changed, but it did so when I asked if it could. Right? I came with the news of, hey, I have a new exciting partnership. You happen to know who they are. And I, like, to be fair, you hadn't told me that you were going to this event. I just figured out that you were going to. And it was one where I was performing, so I felt like I had the right to invite my partner to come because it was really important that they be there. So, there was nuances to it, but at least it was like, this is a thing that I need to tell you and be open about and check in about. And at that point, I think we were turning the leaf. I think that was the same day that we were like, let's go to Mexico and bang for a week.
Week and a half, but yeah.
Yeah.
And you did give me the respect of telling me in person,
Yes.
right? And sharing the state and tuning in, which was, I think, really appreciated. And I want to celebrate that was a moment where I just got to feel so much compersion because I already had been on men's retreats with your new partner. He who shall not be named?
Not yet.
Okay. And there was this beautiful moment of really getting to feel compersion and really getting to get whacked with the story, the thought story that goes along with compersion, which is, there is someone that is doing something that makes this person I love really happy. And I could see how happy you were about the new partnership. And maybe a huge part of enabling that was trusting this guy, this fellow, this chap, this man, and knowing him already. And a huge part of that was it didn't feel like there was anything I was trying to protect. I didn't feel like I was going to lose you to something because we'd already just dove into that fear of losing each other.
Yeah. We had just dove into, we lost each other, but we lost each other before we broke up.
Yeah.
We lost each other when we convinced ourselves that we could do something that we couldn't.
Well, maybe we never had each other the way that we thought we had each other. We are not made for each other in that way.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
And that was something I think maybe that was part of why I had more of an anxious attachment around you, that I was asking for things in our partnership that, like, we had to talk so much about making the relationship work. Like, we spent so much time talking about the relationship. And that's potentially why the new relationship check-ins with my partner are very easy and very short, because there is so much that just works in a way that, like, you and I didn't. Like, we had to talk and talk and talk to make sure, and we found the safety, we created the safety, we created what we thought was quite stable and healthy, and, like, it was to a huge degree, but it still wasn't naturally that way. And, like a huge amount of the anxious attachment that I displayed that then made you slightly avoidant was, I think, in that piece that like I subtly knew deep down that these things might not be reconciled, and that yeah, you would never be that full picture that I was looking for. And I love you so much, and I knew that I probably knew deep down that it wasn't right in some way. And every time I got shown a little bit of a piece of that, it scared me. It scared me so much. Um, and so yeah, I'm just really grateful that we were able to move through all of it and come out and come to a place that actually feels good and feels sustainable. And so like in the question of where are we going, we don't freaking know. And you know what? That's great. It's great because we're not going to try to predict the future. I think I've never been so calm with where my relationships are at in terms of I I'm not in a rush. I think for the first time ever, I'm not in a rush to get to some milestone. I'm not thinking like, "Oh, what about this, this, this?" It's like, "No, everything's going to happen in its own time." And with you and I, like, I really hope we get to continue this dynamic. And I really hope that I like and get along with your future partners. Um, and I really hope that I can have as good of a relationship with them as you have with mine, and that, they can respect and love this relationship. I think something that I really need to keep coming back to is the gratitude that I felt when in Mexico with you, you know, and talking to my partner about and him just saying, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that you're able to continue this relationship in this way, that we offer each other comfort and love and just what do you even say? Like the knowingness, the being known, the being seen, the being held, the like just I am known to you. You are known to me in a way that like we have with so few others. And yeah, just having that be told to me, just celebrating that that can happen, that that's a thing that can happen in this world is so beautiful.
Mm. Yeah, and where am I right now? I'm in my own process of articulating to myself and really tuning into what is it that I want for myself in my own life. Um, and I don't maybe want to share too much about that on a podcast where literally dozens of people will listen to it.
Dozens. Oh, thanks.
Sorry. I had to take that shot. I don't want to go through
Try
the
a few more.
yeah, right. Tens of dozens. I don't want to share all of that necessarily on a podcast, but it has been coming up for me recently where I notice myself going, what does this other person want?
Mm.
And having to thank you for reminding me to not get manifested.
As it goes, because
As it
he was
goes.
manifested by me.
Yes. But to create my own reality and articulate and tune in and articulate. Tuning in is the first part, but tune in to my own desires and tune into the picture of the life that I want to build and not get swept into someone else's vision.
Mm-hmm. Which
And
is
part of that is defending this relationship, appreciating what we have and knowing that it's a good thing in my life and knowing that I appreciate it. And I guess meeting people who are monogamous and that being a reminder to me to go, I'm not a monogamous person. I've never been a monogamous person. I will never be a monogamous person. I have always been uh, somewhat unhappy in monogamous relationships,
same.
antsy and avoidant.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate hearing that. I appreciate hearing that is a consideration. That's like, and here's my Kris, and she is in my life, and that's important to me. And yeah, again, it brings me so much joy and like unimaginable amount of gratitude that that it was just accepted and welcomed, that you were in my life, and that this wasn't this wasn't an issue at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
I also want to say I really appreciate my family for not asking for an in-depth explanation and just accepting that they know you, they like you, they look at me and they see me being happy with you, and they're like, that's all we need to know.
yeah, I appreciate that too. And like so cute that like your little 6-year-old niece asked us on the plane home. She was like, "Oh yeah, like where like you were saying you were going back to Squamish, I was going back to Vancouver," and she just looked at us and went, "So you're separated?" Yes. Yes, sort of. That is all you need to know. Like this tiny human that like, I'm sure she has some friends whose parents are separated. Like, correct.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
We're not going to explain about what a lover or another partner is to a 6-year-old, obviously. As funny as that would be for their parents,
That would be hilarious. We would cause all kinds of problems.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the look on your sister's face when you tried to explain everything and she was like, "Don't tell mom and dad that."
Yeah, thanks. That was good advice, Allison. If you're listening to this, I don't think you are, but appreciate that advice. It's probably made.
I came back to the table and I was like, "You told her what?" Like, yeah, obviously. That's a
Hashtag no
little bit
filter.
yeah, it's a little bit too much, a little bit too much for somebody to just get that dropped on them. Like, so Kris has another partner. We are lovers and friends. Like, nope, nope. I don't think they need to know that because,
Nah, nah.
no.
Uh,
All right. So I'm feeling pretty complete.
I'm feeling pretty complete.
Yeah. Um. Oh, anything you want to say to finish this conversation off?
I always like to finish with a bit of gratitude. Um, yeah, I'm grateful that we have been able to keep so many beautiful parts of this relationship.
Yeah, I am very grateful you're still in my life. And I'm grateful that I was able to forgive you. Yeah. So, with that, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I'm sure we'll welcome you back again soon. And is there anything you'd like to plug? Tell listeners to go find you? Don't give me that face. He just gave me a face, and I know exactly what that means.
That is a future episode. We're gonna. Oh. All right. If you need chimney cleaning services, you could find me at squamishchimney.ca. If you want coaching or men's work, or to know a little bit more about me and what I do for a living and some of the things that I can share, go to grahamzell.ca. That is squamishchimney.ca is the business side of things, but grahamzell.ca will be the place where I'm posting any meditations, any offerings that I share, and I'll be doing a lot of creation this summer that will go onto that website. So look forward to that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm really going to miss telling people and getting to see the look on people's face when I tell them my partner is a chimney sweep.
Oh.
All right. See you next time.